Today's Monday morning mortgage update. Today's going to be a little bit of a special one. We're going to kind of go over the current inventory shortage, kind of go over what happened, why we are here, and what's next. So I think it's incredibly important for buyers and sellers for us to be able to give them good data so that they can understand the market that we're in, so that they know what the future will be. They know how to navigate through it, and first and foremost, how to buy a house without having the fear of some crazy crash happening. So first things, we'll get into the mortgage rates. I'll kind of give you an update on what's happening there. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and jump right in. All right, so here is the current mortgage-backed security charts. If this can open up, there we go. So as you can see, this last 2 to 3 weeks, we've really been kind of flat, going up and down just slightly. The Feds have taken a very robust approach at buying more mortgage-backed securities. They had talked about tapering, which is basically pulling out of them buying all these mortgage-backed securities. They talked about it. It kind of spooked the markets a little bit. That was about 2 weeks ago. And then they came back down. There were some inflation scares. So right now we're a little flat. The Fed's still in a position to control the markets, what we call yield curve control, for the time being. Now, in August, the Feds are going to meet to discuss their strategy and maybe change their strategy moving forward with how they are going to be spending their money as far as buying these mortgage-backed securities or not. But until they do, we're going to have a pretty steady rate world as far as mortgage rates. Now, this week we do get the inflation numbers coming out. It will be higher. Inflation will show higher numbers, but the markets are kind of shrugging it off because they think, or maybe they're pretending that it's a short-term inflation because of the whole trade issues with the logistics of just getting goods to where they're supposed to be. That's still a massive problem. So as you can see right here, the rates are still, the mortgage-backed securities are trading in a very short level between these layers of resistance here, these lines. They're just bouncing in between here like a ping pong ball this last full week. So pretty steady. So we haven't seen really any change in rates. And as you can see, I think last week or even 2 weeks ago when we met last, 3.15 was the average rate. Now it's 3.13. So we're very consistent on rates, and that's a national average for a 30-year fix based on locked loans. It doesn't take into fact if there's points involved in it or not. So I think we're going to see a little bit of a bump higher this week because those inflation numbers will come out. So we're going to be locking some loans before those numbers come out, just as in a reaction to that. But I don't think it's going to have a huge impact because everyone has already priced that into everything right now moving forward. So that's a little update on rates. Any questions on interest rates as we move forward? All right, well, I'm going to open it up to kind of the topic of the day, inventory, why there's such a short or small inventory of real estate in the market. We may already have some ideas, but this is not a recent phenomenon. So I'm going to go back to 2000 and let's see, did I save that picture? I think I did. Hold on one second. Let me show this to you real fast. These are the builder permits that have been issued over the last 20, 30 years. So these are builders' numbers on the permits issued every month. They've been going up and going up and going up. And then we had a huge spike in 2004 to 2005, right in there.
Are you going to share your screen, Sean?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it not sharing?
No, it's not.
I apologize. I got ahead of myself.
Thank you
for jumping in. All right, here we go. So here is the chart. Hopefully it'll load quick. there we go. Here's the chart on the actual permits for builders. Now, we all know that population growth doesn't stop for the most part, but building did. From 2004 till 2010 into 2011, even into the 2015, the number of permits was quite low. And then we've slowly kind of crept back on to be on pace. So we are still nowhere near where the builder permits were back in 2004, but our population growth is exploding right now. So some of the numbers on the population growth, the millennials group is a group of 83 million buyers. Now, that is families, 83 million families hitting the marketplace. That's substantial. So if you have the amount of builders right here being lower than it should be, then, and we have buyers coming into the market that are higher than it should be, we're going to have a problem. So this is not something that is just because of COVID. Now, another thing I want to show you is, you may have already heard.
Sean, do you have a graph that shows anything about the population growth to compare to that?
I could probably pull it up. Let me see. Hold on if I can do this. Hold on. Let me see if I can multitask. Bear with me
Or
one
later,
moment.
you don't have to do it now if you don't want to, but I just thought it'd be interesting to compare the two and show that to people.
Let's see if we can't get something on the fly here. So here's a US population. I don't know what it's changed from previous decades. The projected is blue, so it's sky high. Let's see what this one says. This is US Census population graph. I don't know why it's red. I guess it doesn't like people in this form, and green is good, I guess. I don't know. But as you can see, the population is pretty substantial as far as the growth. Now, getting back to this, have you guys heard the term build to rent? If you Google build to rent, you're going to see I wouldn't call it a troubling trend, but there is a very significant trend that is happening in the last last 7 years, where builders are going in and creating these developments. I mean, I'm going to pull this one up. I'm just going to click on a few of these links where they're going in, they're building developments just to rent. So largest build to rent housing community in the nation sells in Phoenix. So these are single family detached homes with backyards, with a community center that builders are building just for renting. So guys, this is not a onesie twosie type thing. This is a trend across the country. I mean, if you look at, I pulled up all of these different articles to kind of show you what this trend is. Taylor Morrison buys parcel along Loop 303 for new community to include rental units. Here's another one. Rent communities to see explosive growth. Let's see if this one opens. Come on, it's really slow. Here's the Independent, the Daily Independent. Where's the article? It's slow to open. Built to rent communities see explosive growth. It's a whole article on single family homes are not just for homeowners anymore because of financial restraints and pandemic worries. Single family home rentals have become a more attractive option these days, experts say. So, I mean, if you Google it, I mean, I put together these are a bunch of links I put together, all these articles about the build to rent world. So why do I bring that up? I bring that up because that just lessens the amount of homes available for people to buy. So if builders are building these not to sell, but to rent, now they're probably going to go simultaneously side by side, but that means the amount of homes that are out there is going to be fewer for this big buyer population to come in and buy. Now, some other items I want to show you and really point out is Wall Street since 2011. Wall Street, you can always follow, if you follow Wall Street, you can kind of figure out what the trends are. Usually they're ahead of the curve a little bit. And this one in 2011, they started binge buying real estate. So all these real estate investment trusts, all these REITs, all these major corporations, all of these hedge funds, all of these capital, venture capital groups, they are buying homes in droves. Here's an article I'll show you. Let's see what this one was. The Atlantic. When Wall Street is your landlord. All right. Here's another one. Your new landlord is going to be Wall Street. It goes into all of these articles go over how Wall Street is buying tens of thousands of homes and putting them in their portfolio and renting them. So what does this do? I mean, this just adds fuel to the fire, basically, on the homes that are going to be available for normal individuals to buy and sell in the normal real estate market. So if you've got, Wall Street, all these venture capitalists buying hundreds of thousands of homes a year, that's a problem. I mean, it's not a problem for them because they're making a ton of money. It's super smart for them, but it just limits the amount of properties that are going to be available to purchase as a single family dwelling to live in, because they're not going to be selling these anytime soon. It's just a really interesting phenomenon. This is nothing new. This has been happening since the markets were super cheap back in 2011. I mean, this one company deploys $5 billion across multiple strategies to acquire 20,000 homes in the next year. I mean, this is a big buyer that is out there that's going to be competing with our buyers for homes. So just an interesting dynamic. It makes you kind of stop and think. I'm going to stop sharing for just a second. It makes you kind of stop and think, okay, if there's less homes being built, if Wall Street's buying homes as fast as they can to rent them, what hope is it for all these first-time home buyers coming in to buy new homes? And will the markets open up? Will inventory open up? Yes, inventory will open up, but the competition for these homes, we're no longer just competing with Mr. Smith down the street to buy a home. We're competing with Wall Street. It's very interesting. And so my prediction is, if you look at how many homes are on the market right now, we look at who's buying them. I think one of the stats is 6% of current purchases right now are investment properties compared to the national average, which is usually around 2.5. That's more than double. If we look at that and kind of look who our buyers are and the contracts that we're seeing and who we're buying the homes from, it'll give you an indication of kind of where the markets are going. So I don't foresee the inventory shortage to be a long-term problem for the most part, but in the next 2 to 3 years, yes, I really do. I think it's going to be an issue that we have to deal with. And let's think about that for a second. So if we have less homes on the market and more buyers, and we'll continue to have less homes on the market, we're going to continue to have rising prices. So I think one of the biggest things that will cause a slowdown in buyers is interest rates going up. So I'm really curious to see in August, once that comes along, what the Feds will do with their buying of mortgage-backed securities. That's the only reason rates are so low, is the Feds are buying mortgage-backed securities in billions a day just to keep rates low. Normally, it should be the open markets that are buying these, but nobody wants them right now because there's not a very big yield on them. But when rates go higher, then people will flock to those to get a higher return on the investment. But until then, I think we're going to have a massive inventory problem. And it's just going to be something we have to educate our buyers on. So if a buyer came to me and said, you know what, I'm going to wait for the markets to turn around, they're going to be in for a world of hurt, I think, because in my mind, I kind of have not a conspiracy theorist mind, but if all these corporations are buying up all these properties and all these builders are building rental properties, how many are going to be left for people to actually own individually in the future if this trend continues? So I honestly believe home ownership is going to be more of a luxury in the future because of these trends. It's going to be more of a unique, it's going to get more unique than just everyone owning a home. if these trends continue. So I think home ownership right now is getting to be a little bit more of an exclusive club, so to speak, because it is a lot more competitive out there. And if you have somebody that's thinking about buying, I think they should. Again, we don't know what the future will hold. There's a lot of unknowns out there right now. But as long as interest rates stay low, then buyers will have a good chance of getting a better deal now than if they waited a year or two. I mean, in the last year and a half, nobody expected to see the explosion that we've seen. So it's been rather crazy. So I'd love to see any comments on the right. If you guys want to hit the chat, any questions. But as we continue to see people move from the major congested cities out to outlying areas like LA compared to Phoenix or Scottsdale, we're going to continue to see people gobbling up the properties. That's going to always lead to an inventory shortage. And a perfect example is somebody like myself that would love to sell their house and buy another one, but it's just not feasible. So it's not feasible because I don't have all of this money to put down on a new home and do that first, because I'm a very conservative person. I'm not going to buy a house first and then sell mine later. I need the cash for my house to do that. And I just don't see it as a risk I want to take right now with having multiple properties owned with one selling. And that's a lot of people have that same idea. I would rather sell my property, put it on the market and find one, but the odds of me finding a home that I like in the next couple months is probably low because there's nothing out there. So I think that whole market is kind of slow right now, which is, again, leading to the inventory problem. So here's a comment. I also heard some younger people saw their family lose their home in 2006 and 8. So some don't have faith in home ownership. That is correct. And a lot of those people in the mortgage industry, we're seeing those millennials that are interested in home ownership. And again, they're interested in home ownership because they don't want to be pushed around by landlords telling them that they have to move out in 3 months or 3 weeks or whatever it may be. They want to create their own roots. And the only way to do that with families is to have your own home. So they're older now. So the buyers are a little older than they traditionally would be on first-time home buyers. But what I'm seeing a trend on is these millennials that make up this huge group, they actually know how to save. These people are coming to us, first-time home buyers with 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, $100,000 in down payment and no debt. So they saw what happened in the 2008, 9, 10 when they were at a very moldable age, and they learned that, they remembered that, they saw the pain there, and they are really financially in a different position. Now, student loan debt, that's another thing we could talk about, but that's another problem with this generation too. But for the most part, a lot of them have a lot of money. So as far as the inventory crisis, it's nothing new. But another problem that we have is the cost of lumber. So builders, it's just getting more expensive to build. So that's just another cost which adds to the price of homes going up. So as far as appreciation, we're still going to see appreciation. We're still going to see it going. It's going to go strong. And if you are in touch with the Cromford Report and getting all the wonderful information that they always give us, you'll see that. And the forbearance ending will add more properties to the market, but we all need that. We definitely need that. So I welcome that. As long as rates are low, these will be gobbled up quickly because there is a high need. So that's kind of my update as far as where we are with the markets, and kind of this is nothing new as far as the inventory shortage, and it's going to last, I think, until we see the builders catch up. Security Title has a Cromford Report update at 1 p.m. today. Thank you for that info. Well, yeah, the Cromford Report updates are great. They are just wonderful information. Again, we want to make sure, guys, that we are empowering our buyers to make the right decisions. And if somebody comes to me and says, this is a bubble that's not going to last, well, this is a unique circumstance that we're all in, and there are a lot of question marks. But if you look at the data, and if you look at the population and the buyer pool that's out there compared to how many homes are on the market, one or two things are going to happen. They're just not going to buy here. They're going to go somewhere where they can find a house, maybe go to Branson, Missouri, but this is a very national issue. It's not very, it's not specific to only certain areas. Now, Arizona, I think, is like number 1 or 2 for appreciation this year. So yay, we're all excited about that if we own homes, but it's not a regional problem. It is a national issue. And until we get builders back on track and permits up and more land being offered, one thing, if you can know Scottsdale well, they're in a unique position as a city because most of their land is zoned so that it's open for its parks and recreation. So getting land to build in the Scottsdale area won't happen unless the government releases it, which is controversial. So dirt and owning land and getting builders to buy more dirt and to build is not something that's going to happen overnight. So I see this lasting at least 2 to 3 years before we see any type of a break in the amount of properties hitting the market that are new as far as new builds. But we'll see what interest rates do for the future. Because if interest rates go up, guys, guess what? Nobody's going to want to move because right now we're at interest rates in the 2s and 3s. So that's another thing that could slow the amount of inventory coming into the market. So the Feds have a big decision to make in regards to where they're putting their money this August when they plan their new agendas. But we'll see what that comes into, how that comes into play. But moving forward, make sure your buyers understand what is driving the markets and why prices are going up. And it's just a supply and demand function. And I ran some interesting numbers. You guys would think this was very interesting as well. In the 80s, if you were to take the interest rates of the 80s at the prices of the 80s and compare them to the median average of homes right now with rates right now, the payment on that mortgage is the same. Let that sink in for the second. Rates at 15 or 16 or rates at 10 or 11 on a $50,000 mortgage are similar to those at 2.75% on a $300,000 mortgage. It's just an interest rate playing game. So the cost of homes is not really a factor in the affordability. Interest rate has a massive impact on that. So when you're talking to buyers, they're not only investing in the value of the property, they're investing in the rate as to which they're getting that property at on the mortgage as well. So if people say they want to wait, higher interest rates will make it a lot more expensive for them as well. So keep that in mind when talking to your buyers. All right, a lot of information we went over. Hopefully it was all something that you guys could use. But if you're interested, Google build to rent and then hedge funds or corporations buying real estate, and it'll blow your mind. It's really interesting. It really is a strange trend. But go ahead and unmute yourself. If you have any questions, jump right in. I'm going to be staying on the line for a while and answering any questions that you may have. And Joan, good to see you out there again. But yeah, if you have any questions, by all means, stay on, shoot me a quick text or on the chat, and I'll be happy to answer any that you have. So have a great Monday, guys, and we will be in touch. See you next week.
Awesome, Sean. Thank you, as always. Very enlightening. Appreciate you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. You have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Sean, as people fade out, I got a couple questions for you.
Yes, sir.
So, if you remember Hannah, Hannah
Yeah.
Lee, she went back to the dentist's office, and they're not going to give her a W-2, so she only has the 1099s for being a dentist.
Yeah. So she kind of she has
Is
to
there
wait 2
nothing
years.
she can do?
There's nothing unless she puts 20% or more down and does a Well, there are bank statement programs, but we would need to show 12 months worth of bank statements.
Does it
For
have to
her
be the
business?
same job?
Yes. And she
Okay,
would
I
have
mean,
to be in,
she didn't have much of a gap in between, but she's worked for different dentists.
yeah, see, that's the problem because she has to be 1099 at the same. Let me think about that. Yeah,
It's a hard one, buddy.
yeah, she'd have to show 2 years worth of self-employment to do a conventional FHA or VA loan. Obviously, VA wouldn't apply to her, but the bank statement program, she needs to show 2 years in the same company to be able to use the bank statement program, or 2 years self-employed to use the bank statement program. So yeah, when you're W-2'd and then you go 1099, you're now on a 2-year waiting list for the most part.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, she may want to get a whole new job. I've had people quit their jobs and get a different job just so that they can do the same thing and make a W-2 income. It sounds extreme, but something to think about.
Yeah. That's gonna be hard. I don't think it's gonna work.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's an extreme. That's an extreme solution, that's for sure.
Yeah. When you're done with this, can you give me a call?
Yeah, absolutely.
I got another question or two for you about some other stuff.
You got it.
Thank you.
You got it, Lars. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Have a good day. Be great. Give me a call in a bit.
You too, sir. Hey, Susie, you there?
Hi,
Hey, how are you?
good. How are you?
Good. It looks like Kevin reached out to me over the weekend, so we're going back and forth to kind of connect on that. Did you guys end up making an offer?
No, it didn't
Got
work
it.
out.
Got it. I figured there was probably a pause that happened because he lost his energy. So I'll be reaching out to him today to kind of get everything fine-tuned for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you got it. All right, guys, for the rest of you, I'm going to go ahead and hop off. Enjoy your week and let me know if there's anything I can do for you.